The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back. Bay Area Pressbox in the zone. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. And one of the two mavens who sit in the Pressbox in the Bay Area is here. Michael Duca isn't. Jerry Feitelberg is. Jerry, how are you, sir?
I am so glad to hear your voice. I missed doing the show last week. I was driving up to my home in Mendocino. For the listeners out there, it's a village about 160 miles northwest of Alameda on the coast, the rugged coast. This time of year, a lot of white water, and it's good for whale watching too. If the whales were running, but they'll be going north in about 6 weeks. And March is usually they have whale watching festivals up and down the coast that time of year. It's spectacular.
How is the weather up there compared to the 65 and sunny that we're having today?
It was 55 when I left this morning. It was a little bit warmer.
Okay.
It was cooler yesterday. Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was overcast, kind of like it is here.
Nice.
Cooler. Yeah.
And you just get a chance to relax and walk the dog and enjoy life.
Yeah, and it's a small community, and you meet the neighbors because they're out walking their dogs. I met 3 of my neighbors yesterday, and it was good. They were all walking their dogs. It was nice to see them. I had a nice chit-chat. And I walked down to the Mendocino headlands, or the Castro South headlands. And when you get down there, there's a little trail, and there's what we call Seal Rock. And the sea lions are out there on the rock, and you can hear them barking. So there was about 30 or 40 of them out there yesterday, but different times of the year. I've seen as many up to 300 on that rocket at one time. And what they do in January, especially in January, they do what is called rafting. They form a raft, and it looks just like a raft. And the individuals dive down for food. And they do that as protection from the sharks, from the great white sharks, because the sharks are following the whales as they go up north. And in March, when the whales head up to Alaska, they come closer to the shore. The mother is on the outside, the calf is on the inside, and the mother tries to protect the calf from shark attacks. So to see nature in the raw like that, it's really astounding.
If anybody out there is listening who isn't in the great state of California, that's just a snippet of what California is like when we're not having fires, earthquakes,
right,
floods, droughts, and all that other stuff. California is a pretty nice place to live, generally speaking.
Well,
and
in my backyard on Wednesday, I have an acre of land out there, so we have a lot of land and a lot of space between the neighbors. We looked out the kitchen window or the dining nook. There were 12 deer out there munching on the grass, and there were about 6 turkeys, and there were 6 wild turkeys, all convening together in my yard. What a beautiful
nice, sight. Real nice nature.
Yeah.
Take some videos. On your camera next time.
You got to press it up against the window because as soon as you open the door, off they go. They don't hang out.
That's true. That's true. They're very sensitive.
Especially, and you have to be careful. One of our neighbors has a small dog, and the dog chased the deer one day, and there was a buck. The buck turned around and went after the dog and flipped the dog over, and the dog rolled over a couple of times and was coming to stop him when the owner rescued the dog just before any damage could be done. Deer can kill a dog. They're very protective of their herd, of their fawns.
Oh, really?
And those, yeah. Yeah, it's just amazing. So in the pictures I took, there was one young deer that had horns, was growing horns. The rest of them didn't have them, but they still can stomp you. Normally, the deer, they know that they can outrun a dog, so they just take off, and it's no problem. But you never know. The dogs have certain hunting instincts, and they'll go after them. So I don't let the dogs off leash, and prevents them from getting into trouble.
Are they well trained so they don't drag you around? I mean,
the dogs?
Yeah. When they're on leash?
I can control them. Yeah, I just
okay.
Turn them down, let them go. Yeah. No problem. No,
good
they
deal.
Bark at them, but yeah, it is a good deal. So it was very, very nice.
So you're back, and let's segue into what's going on in the sporting world in the Bay Area, the entire Bay Area. It's off season for baseball, obviously. Anything you want to comment about I guess it's a cheating scandal, the signal stealing scandal with Houston has carried over to other teams. Obviously, my Mets, their manager Beltran, their proposed manager, was fired and replaced by the son of Felipe Alou, a Bay Area mainstay with the Giants, both as a player and a manager. The kid's name is Luis Rojas, and he's Felipe's son.
He's Moises Alou's. He's Moises Alou's brother. He chose to take the paternal name rather than the maternal name that Felipe and Moises used. They used, and they had the two other, Mate and Jesus Alou.
And then there was Babalu. There was Babalu too. We can't forget him.
No, that was Desi Arnaz, Babalu. Come on.
Oh, okay. I'm so confused.
But that was good. Yeah, the Alous have a long history in baseball. They've been around. Felipe Alou had great success with the Montreal Expos. He managed the Giants for 4 years. Didn't have too great success, but he was, I believe, he was after they fired Dusty Baker Baker left after the 2002 season, so Felipe, I think, was there 2003, 4, 5, maybe. I'm not sure if he was there in 16. And Bochy came on board, and of course, Bochy had great success with the team, winning 3 world championships. But you're talking about the cheating scandal, and you're talking about what went on in 2017, with Houston, 2018 with Boston, and the tie between Alex Cora and Carlos Beltran. Beltran was finishing up as designated hitter in 2017 with the Astros. A lot of times they get confused because the Astros were in the National League for a long time until 2013, but they were in the American League. They went from worst to first, and they were the Sad Sacks when they came in. They had three seasons in a row where they lost 100 games, and now they turned it around. They had a wonderful second baseman. Jose Altuve was the most valuable player. They had Yuli Gurriel from first base, a Cuban refugee. Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, shortstop and second base.
Oh, they were set to be a dynasty.
Yeah, they had the former A. Josh Reddick came over as a free agent, and now this year they had Michael Brantley, who played well for the Astros, and the Astros they beat the Yankees in the playoffs in 2017. And the Yankees had a wonderful team, of course, and the Yankees, if they don't win the World Series, it's a bad year, but they were eliminated in 2017 by the Astros, and they were eliminated in 2018 by the Red Sox. And the tie is Alex Cora. Alex Cora was the first, I believe, one of the few first-year managers to win a World Series. I think he was the first Puerto Rican manager to win a World Series. And things looked rosy for him up in Boston. He had been the bench coach in Houston. And this whole thing came about because a former Astros pitcher who's now with the Oakland A's, Mike Byers, Mike won a ring with the Astros in 2017, but he was with the A's in 2018 and 19. Apparently, he blew the whistle on the scheme. And what was the scheme? The scheme was this. Well, let's preface it with this. In baseball, if you have a runner on second base and he can see the spot the sign from the catcher and he can decipher it, he can really do something. He can blow his nose or scratch his, take off his cap and scratch his head, or do some, wipe his fingers on his shirt or whatever to let the batter know.
Yeah, it's an art. Sign stealing legally is an art between the lines or from the dugout. It's much admired, and there have been players who have stuck around in the majors as bench players only because of their sign-stealing ability. But this superseded that, as did the Giants stealing signs in the 51 season via telescope in those days. So,
telescope out in center field. Here on this one, as you know, baseball instituted replay several years ago. And that the replay, they had the cameras trained on the bases. They had different angles to view it. And if an umpire missed the call, the managers could challenge it. And then what they did is that they set up a monitor in the dugout. And if there was a play, that the bench coach or someone would watch the monitor and then relay a signal to the manager to challenge or not challenge the call. And that's what it was for. The Astros picked up on that, and since apparently the game is being telecast in the dugout as it's being played. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the press box. We actually have a slight delay in the press box between the time the pitch is thrown and the time we see it on the TV. It's maybe a 2 or 3 second delay. So if people were up in the press box, they couldn't relay signs because you're not getting it right away. But apparently they were getting it in real time. They were getting it, and what they were doing is if it were a fastball, they wouldn't do anything. But if it were a curveball or a slider or a changeup, they would bang the drum, and the batter could lay off the pitch, so they could earn a walk and cut down on the number of strikeouts. Because a lot of times, and we've seen this, a pitch will come in, it looks like it's going to come in right at the plate, and at the last minute breaks and goes outside, and the batter lunges for it and strikes out. But this time, they could lay off and they get a ball, and the pitcher would have to work a little harder. And if you know that you're getting a changeup or a slider, you can make adjustments in the batter's box and take advantage of it. You still have to get a hit. You still have to hit the baseball, and that's not easy. But laying off the pitch is. So, and if it's a 2-2 count and the ball crosses over the plate, the guy gets called in, but he doesn't go out swinging. So who knows how effective this was? We just don't know.
Well, it was the intent. It wasn't necessarily whether or not it was effective that causes discipline. It was the attempt to have it be effective that causes discipline. So it's like going into the bank and robbing the bank. If you don't get away with it, that doesn't mean it's not attempted bank robbery, that kind of stuff. So whatever the effect was, it came down on the integrity of the game. Manfred stood up, and as a result, the manager of the Red Sox was fired, the manager of the Mets was fired, the manager of Houston, was fired, and the general manager of Houston, and it sent a statement. But here's my contention. It's just like with the steroids. The cheaters will always be one step ahead of the law, so to speak. So that for every, they put these new restrictions in, somebody's going to beat it. And the expression, "it ain't cheating if you're not caught," has been in baseball in a myriad of different ways. Cork bats, spitballs, this, that, and the other thing. So whether or not this was unusually harsh punishment is really the question. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. What do you think? Do you think that punishment fit the crime?
Yeah, I think so. I think it sent a message to the players. If you can steal the sign on your own, it's okay, but do not use technology to get an advantage. And we know that Gaylord Perry's in the Hall of Fame, and Gaylord admitted greasing up the ball, and he got away with it. He's in the Hall of Fame. So people will get in by cheating. Years ago, Whitey Ford, the catcher for the Yankees, would stop the ball when he threw it back to Whitey. So Whitey. No,
it was Elston. It was Elston Howard that would do that.
Yeah. So then they got away with it. If you have a little nick in there, and you can get a little more spin and a little more break, and you on a changeup or a curve or a slider, it's to the pitcher's advantage. And Whitey.
Right, but that is cheating.
That's cheating.
And that's something that baseball has condoned, made a joke out of. Gaylord Perry's and Lou Burdette and all that stuff with the spitball. So I don't know if this is an overreaction, but I contend that there will still be teams trying to beat the system. Teams, individuals. It's inherent in our society. There's a certain amount of greed, that a certain amount of getting the upper hand, no matter what. And it just surprised me. It became so widespread. I'm not saying
And it's just not to get in the Hall of Fame. It's these young athletes, young men. They've been competing all their lives, and to get the chances of getting a big league career and staying in the big league careers, the odds are astronomical. They have to fight their way up, and now they get a job or an opportunity to show their stuff. And if they go into a slump, they might get sent down to the minor leagues, or if someone comes up behind them that looks like the prospect is going to beat them out, they will do anything that they can to stay in the big leagues. They may get traded, but that's part of the game. But they will take advantage of any scintilla of cheating or anything to get that slight advantage that will keep them in the starting, either rotation or the starting lineup. And
a good time to ask you this, Jerry. Is life a microcosm of baseball, or is baseball a microcosm of life?
It's both. In the business
it's
world.
It's both.
In the business.
Yeah, same thing goes in the business world.
Sure.
As
you're working for a company, it's dog eat dog sometimes. You're supposed to be on the same team, but if a new guy comes in and he's lighting up the business world, the guys that are ahead of him say, "Well, we got to get rid of this high shot. We'll do something to get rid of him." And the guy is trying to figure out, is he going to take my job? I'm going to make sure that he doesn't. That type of thing. And it goes on all the time.
It goes on from the top on down, in any company and in any endeavor. So let me ask you this, Jerry. What do you think of the Hall of Fame announcements? Were you happy that Derek Jeter didn't get in unanimously? Do you think he?
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you something. When pharmacists and doctors and lawyers take the bar exam and the board exams, you don't have to get 100%. You have to get 75%. And if you get 75%, they say you're qualified. You're qualified to be a pharmacist. You're qualified to be a doctor. You're qualified to be an attorney. You don't have to get them all right. Jeter came within one vote of getting them all. Even if he only got 75% of the vote, it doesn't make any difference. He's in the Hall of Fame.
My God, I just flashed it. Thank God there's no 75% required to be a podcaster. I'd be shit out of luck.
Yeah, there you go.
I found a career that's non-judgmental. They don't care what the hell you are.
Exactly.
All right, and that's the way it should be. And that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Barry Walker's in the Hall of Fame, and no one's going to ask him. He's going to be telling his grandchildren that he had a great career playing baseball, and he's in Baseball Hall of Fame. No one's ever going to ask him, what was your percentage of the vote? No one cares. He got in. That's it.
And they won't be asking him about where did you play? Was it in Colorado? And how did that affect your stats and this, that, and the other thing? Nah. He's a Hall of Famer. And remember, it's a museum. I had an epiphany that people like Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, not they all, but the deserving ones, baseball-wise, should be allowed in. It's a museum, and it is not anything holy. And the holier and now folks that make the decisions on these things, some of them, the holier than thou ones, are players already in who have done steroids themselves or whatever, or had bad things happen in their lives. And some of them are the same ones that refused to attend if Barry Bonds, an admitted steroid user, or it's pretty well.
Wait a minute. Did Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens ever test positive for steroids? I don't know. Neither one ever tested positive for steroids.
At this point, with the era that we went through and are still going through, if you include HG or whatever the hell it is, human growth hormone, right? Which there's no test for that in baseball. Right. That stuff. Assume that every player was doing some sort of something to gain the edge. Willie Mays had what they call his red juice, which was a concoction of speed, basically.
Yeah, there was a doctor in New York that took care of John F. Kennedy. He had the same red juice, and it was widely used back in those days. But they weren't illegal. They were not illegal to use, and they had appropriate medical use. Fine. But
my point is, people getting the edge. When Mark McGwire started, it became known he had the bottle of Android or whatever the hell it was in his locker room. It was legal at that point. What made it right?
You could buy
and no one would know more than you. Jerry Feitelberg, Pharmacist of the Year in California in 1995. I remember that year vividly. My son was 5, and he didn't know anything about Jerry Feitelberg.
Well, I can tell you that, having seen McGuire, man, when he came up as a rookie, he hit 49 home runs as a rookie. And I don't know when he started going on the powder or whatever, but I remember his batting average dropped down to about 200 one year, and he was really down in the dumps. And then he had the plantar fasciitis in his feet, which would cost him a little bit. But I saw him working out on the weights. It never dawned on me that he'd be juicing, and I was kind of surprised when it came out that he did. But he should have been honest about it, and he looked kind of. If he apologized before Congress in 2005 when they had the hearings, he'd be in the Hall of Fame today. But
yeah, hey, who looks stupider, Congress or him? Can you imagine Congress judging anybody? Those hearings, they were getting autographs. Congressmen were from Clemens and those people. Judge not, be judged yourself. However that thing goes, but Congress is certainly not holier than thou either. However, it all comes back to the cover-up. Had McGuire not gone in front of Congress and said, it was the sign of the times, instead he said, we're not here to talk about that. I don't want to talk about the past, that kind of thing. Yeah, it made him look bad. It made him look bad. The most honest guy in the entire world about steroids was Jose Canseco. He wrote 2 books.
No one ever sued him.
No one ever sued him. No one ever questioned him. Nothing he said wasn't true. It was pure out and out the steroid era. Time to let ball players in. I'm reminded that yesterday Bonds and Clemens both got over 60%. So they will eventually go in. Next year there are no out and out sure superstars. They will. And it's time. It's time. And I've done a total 180 on this in the last 6, 7, 8 years. Live and let live. I'll thank Barry Bloom for his influence on my thinking. I thank Peter Golenbach for his influence on my thinking. And just looking back, he's been dead for 60 years. I'm talking about Shoeless Joe Jackson. And he goes down in people's memories as right up there in talent with Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, that sort of thing. And you're going to leave him out of the Hall of Fame, a museum, because he took a couple of $100 in a scandal. Enough already. Forgive the guy. Forgive him.
I don't think he took any money. Ted Williams, and I got this from Leonard Coppett before he passed away. Leonard said
naturally.
Leonard was in the room with Ted Williams on the Veterans Committee, and he said that Ted was a huge proponent for Shoeless Joe Jackson being in the Hall of Fame. You have to remember, Shoeless Joe Jackson did not take any money. He was implicated because he knew about the scheme. He hit 370.
No. Excuse me. I think he did take some money. I don't know if he knew what he was doing. I don't remember the story in its entirety, but I think he did. He was a rube. He had no more idea than some of the others, and it was all in vengeance for Comiskey, who was cheap so-and-so and this, that, and the other thing. But, pardon?
He was a tightwad. He wouldn't pay his players.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And they were bound by the reserve clause.
Right. But it's my philosophy again. Let these guys in, and I'm thinking that next year or the year after, Barry and Roger will get in, which opens the gates to other deserving. How about Palmeiro? Is he deserving?
Yeah.
3,000 hits.
500 homers. Yes. Those are numbers that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. One of the things that you have to keep in mind about steroid use is that not every player that used steroids put up Hall of Fame numbers. There were guys on the San Francisco Giants, Bob Estalella and Marvin Bernard, who both were suspected of using steroids. Estalella was about a 220 hitter, and Bernard was about. But
without steroids, he may not have been in the big leagues. It isn't just used.
We don't know.
It's used for recovering. Right. It's used for recovery time. It isn't just used to muscle up and power up.
And then I think it's a grind. You 162 games playing in hot and humid weather, traveling. You're in a town one night, you get unpacked, you play a 2-game series, and you're on the road again for 3 games.
Jerry, excuse me 1 second. I think we've been joined by Robert Cole, who may not have gotten the message that the Met show is a half an hour later. Am I correct?
Oh, okay.
Yes, you are. So I'll say good night, and I'll see you
Well,
later.
you don't even have to say good night. Let's introduce yourself. Join us for a second. Robert Cole, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'd like you to meet Jerry Feitelberg. We're doing the show of Pressbox, Bay Area Pressbox. And Jerry is the former pharmacist of the Oakland A's and a journalist who sits in the press box of not only the A's but the Warriors. You do some hockey, if I'm not mistaken.
I do Sharks. I do Stanford football.
Yeah.
I'm doing Stanford basketball.
And Robert Cole is a baseball. Robert Cole is a baseball historian. Anything you want to know about the Brooklyn Dodgers or the New York Mets, Robert Cole is your man. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah. We were talking about the Hall of Fame as you joined us. Anything you want to add to the picks? Were you happy with last night's announcements? Did you think Jeter should have gotten 100% of the votes?
Yes, I do, simply because the magic seal was broken last year when Mariano Rivera got 100%. Until that point, I was fine with, nobody getting 100%. That was fine. But then last year, that was changed. Mariano got 100%. So that seal has been broken, and people are trying to say, well, Babe Ruth didn't get 100%, Ty Cobb didn't get 100%, and that's true, and I agree with that. But like I said, once that seal was broken last year, it's a whole different ballgame now. So,
but not even if a guy qualifies, do you think that Jeter was up in status with Mariano Rivera, as an example, or Babe Ruth, who you mentioned, even if he didn't get 100%? I don't think Jeter was quite as great as if he didn't play in New York. I don't think he'd have gone down as being quite as great as he was, and I honestly think that Rodriguez was the greater of the two and should have been left at shortstop, and Jeter should have been moved over because Jeter had less range. But if it were just baseball, not politics, and ego. What do you say to that, Robert?
Oh, I agree to a certain extent. I mean, if Mariano had been pitching for the Detroit Tigers instead, he wouldn't have been as great either. So, players and teams fit, and some guys benefit from it, and some guys don't.
That was a good point about Mariano. Sometimes it's who you play for. But how about this as an example? Ernie Banks played with the Cubs, never won a pennant, and he goes down in my book as the best shortstop, all-around shortstop of my day.
Better than Ripken?
I believe, yeah. Power-wise, Ripken's reputation is based a lot on the consecutive games played, and I think that ended up being kind of a selfish record. I think he might have been better off. He might have served his team better along the line in his career if he'd have taken a couple of days off here and there. What do you say to that, guys? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, it does. Range had a lot to do with it. There were better defensive shortstops than Ripken. There were better defensive shortstops than Jeter. Omar Vizquel pops in mind. Right. Ozzie Smith jumps in mind. Nomar Garcia Parra for a couple of years was the...
Yeah, he really did. He had those peak years. You could speak about those years, Jerry, because you're a Boston Red Sox aficionado.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to see Nomar play, but he was a pretty good hitter and a pretty good fielder. But the Red Sox traded him in 2004, and they won the World Series with Orlando Cabrera. So, what do I know? Why would you trade a guy like that?
Hey, what do all three of us? What do all three of us know? We're podcasters. It doesn't stop us from having opinions.
Well, Robert, I told Ralph earlier that when professional people like myself, when you're a pharmacist or a doctor, a lawyer, when you take the board exams, you only have to get 75% to pass. And no one will ever ask you what you got on the. If you got a 75.1 grade, you're still a licensed pharmacist, doctor, lawyer. And it's the same thing with Jeter. 10 years from now, no one's really going to care whether he got in unanimously or not. He got in. 75% is the bar. Once you get more than that, to me, it's just extraneous. It would have been nice, but it's not the end of the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right.
He's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer. Larry Walker's a Hall of Famer. It took Larry, 10 years to get in the last year of eligibility?
Yes.
And he should have been voted in a long time ago. He had great numbers. So, but he finally did get in. It was like with Raines, Tim Raines a couple of years ago. They made it in the last year of eligibility. Raines was a Hall of Famer. And I don't know why they have to wait to their final year, but that's the way it goes sometimes.
Well, with Raines, a lot of it was reputation because the era that he played in was heavy-duty drug thing, and I think Rock got involved a little bit with that at one time or another.
Yes.
And so that might have been the reason, but he was a terrific ball player. He was speed. You talk about, he had a lot of punch and a lot of speed. Let's put it that way.
He was a great ball player.
All right. Jerry, anything you want to close with? Anything on your mind about Bay Area sports?
Well, yeah, this Saturday, the 25th, will be the A's Fan Fest over at Jack London Square. I think it's from 9 to 1. And they usually draw a good crowd over there, and the players are over there. They'll be talking about going to spring training. I'll be meeting with the A's on the 5th of February, and we'll be talking over what's going on with the A's and see if there's any movement on the ballpark. I think
Boy, we've been saying those same words for going on 3 years now, Jerry.
Right, and I told you.
With the ballpark.
I told you I'll believe it. I'll believe it when the steam shovels are breaking ground. Then we'll have the ballpark. So we'll see what happens on that. In the meantime, in the Bay Area, a week from Sunday, the San Francisco 49ers will be in Miami going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, which should be one terrific Super Bowl this year. I'm looking forward to that. I think the Chiefs are favored by a couple points, but the Niners got a great defense. The Chiefs got a great offense. Should be a great game. Looking forward to that. The Warriors, they are now 10-36 on the year, but they have bright spots. The rookies, the young players are getting a chance to play. Guys like Eric Pascal, who's averaging about 14 points a game. He's in his first year. He played at Villanova for 4 years. He's a teammate of Omari Spellman, who's coming along with the Warriors. A young Jordan Poole, who came out of Michigan, is 20 years old, is starting to play better. And they got some veterans on the club that are doing well. Glenn Robinson III and Alec Burks. Burks put in 33 points the other night. So when Steph Curry and Klay Thompson get back, Kevon Looney's been hurt most of the year. Draymond has been playing well when he plays. He's getting too many technicals. I don't know how many he's gotten so far this year, but all he has to do is open his mouth and they put a T on him. And the Sharks are floundering. So that's what's going on in the Bay Area sports scene this year.
All right. We will be back, not next week, but in 2 weeks. Well, next week with Mr. Duca on this
Michael's in New York.
He's in New York.
I believe that once a year, he's the official scorer. He does both the A's and the Giants during the course of the season, and they have meetings to go over the new rules and all the different things that they have to do as the scorer. So I think that's where he's at right now in New York.
Well, I saw a picture that he put up. He's at a deli, a New York deli, with the biggest sandwich you ever saw. I mean,
which one? Did you go,
I think it was the Carnegie Deli, but
no, the Carnegie's closed. The Carnegie's closed. The stage is closed. Could have been
wow.
Yeah.
Katz's. Okay.
We'll have to find out. And
all right, we'll find out next.
Michael's a connoisseur of food. He's very good on that stuff.
All right. And Robert, we will, first of all, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you on the Met Show before you know it.
Okay, sounds like a deal.
All right.
Okay, Ralph.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. This is terrific with both of you. And it is Bay Area Pressbox in the Zone. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Michael Duca in New York, Jerry Feitelberg with us, Robert Cole from Florida joins us. Oh, what a show. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Thanks, Ralph.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Adios.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.